welcome to NQAT Daily, and we're going to talk about Fenerbahçe versus United, and I am with Adam Joseph, long-time friend of the pod, I would say, shit poster-in-chief on Twitter, Manchester City fan tormentor. How are you doing, Adam?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you for the lovely introduction. It's very fitting.
Yeah, there you go. I've always wanted that on a business card, yeah. All right. So we've known each other for years, actually. You wrote many pieces for the old blog when I was doing writing, and old host Paul blamed me for launching you into the world. I don't know whether that's the right terminology, but
yeah. No, I can understand that. Back when our fingers worked and we used to write articles.
Yeah, it's just way too much effort. I don't bother doing that anymore. Talking's hard enough, but
yeah.
Better than writing. All right, so United versus Fenerbahçe at the Sukru Saracoglu Stadium. I had to work that one out. I'm kind of looking forward to this one because it's a reunion on so many levels, isn't it? With Fenerbahçe, obviously we played them a few times with Jose, with Fred, with Amrabat, a whole bunch of ex-Premier League players in that team as well. So what are your thoughts? So 24 hours or so before kickoff.
Nervous. I was listening to your Brentford preview, and I remember your prediction. That didn't think we'd win, and I was like, that's how I feel now going into games. I used to have that optimism, like I think we can find a way, but all I expect is chaos, particularly with Jose, Amrabat, Fred, Dzeko, El Nesri from the Sevilla game, which we don't want to get into, and
oh god,
yeah, just so many nerves. But I'm really looking forward to it. I just think. Nothing like European nights these days for Manchester United. They're just a little bit different to what they used to be.
Yeah, well, we've managed to score and concede 3 or more goals in our last 4 European away games. So predicting a 0-0 in this one would be pretty foolish, I imagine. I think I've said this on the pod in the past. There was a time when I was younger where, well, both I reacted very badly to losing, and as we all do, but also just didn't believe that United would ever lose, even when we were shit. And now I've kind of gone full circle, and where I'm pretty calm about losing because it happens so bloody often, and I find it hard to find the pathway to great performances. That said, second half against Brentford at the weekend was pretty good, wasn't it? Does that give you any kind of hope that we're going to find a way of replicating that?
It's an interesting question, only because every time we've gotten a glimmer of hope, it's been snatched away really quickly. But it was the best. It probably was the best half of football we've played in quite a while. So you just want to see some progression from that. Like, obviously, you'd take a win and just run with it tomorrow. But I'd really like to see some evolution of that, or just a continuation of it would be nice. The real curiosity for me is with Bruno out, and if you'd think it's going to be Eriksen in the 10 based on the fact he did the press conference and just the way Fenerbahçe set up. I'm really curious as to the lineup they go with, but you just want to see some semblance of that second half continued on, because I think the biggest criticism you can probably have of Erik ten Hag in recent times, or Erik ten Hag and the team, is there's just no consistency, no continuity, no definitive style that you can really latch onto. So I think if he's going to silence the critics or keep them at bay for a little bit longer, we're going to need to see some consistency. I'm not sure what you think or what you're expecting.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's talk about United, then we'll get on to Fenerbahce, and then we can get on to some of the pre-match mind games, because they've been all fun and games as usual with anything with Jose involved. So yeah, United. I like you. I think Eriksen will probably start in number 10 or double 8, however you want to frame it, in a Ten Hag system. Ugarte will have to start, I assume. There aren't many other options. Casemiro, is he fit? I mean, he went out with the team, but he hobbled off at the weekend, was complaining, holding the back of his leg. I don't know what other options there are if Casemiro isn't fit. I mean, Eriksen in the 8 and someone else comes into the 10, I assume. So I expect that sort of, depending on Casemiro, that sort of shape in midfield. And then assume Mazraoui is back in the team and Dalot shifts over to left back with Martinez in the centre of defence with De Ligt is my assumption. That'd be first choice, I think, from Erik. And then up front, some mix of Garnacho, Rashford, Højlund, or Ahmad comes into the team if we want to keep the ball a bit more. I mean, it's so unpredictable with what United will actually bring in terms of one like shape. It's a 4-2-3-1. Like that is always Erik's shape. But the personnel in the team completely dictates the style of play, just completely. So if it's Rashford and Garnacho, you'd imagine United play transitions. If it's Garnacho and Ahmad, a little bit more controlled. I mean, Garnacho's a very good runner with the ball, carries the ball, doesn't he? Who do you think and who do you hope might be in the side?
I am a little curious, like most people seemingly on Twitter, whether at some point we'll get Højlund and Xerxes. I don't think in a way fixture in Turkey's the game to do that. But if Casemiro isn't good to go, because I'd actually really like to see Casemiro and Ugarte together, because I don't think that Ugarte is a sole defensive midfielder. I think he's better in that pivot. So if you have him and Casemiro, maybe we'll see the best of him. I think he'll be more suited to European ties. And I think you've touched on this previously. Maybe he's better suited to that sort of intensity of fixture for right now as he adjusts to English football. But I'm also curious to whether Ahmad's going to play. I mean, didn't come off the bench on the weekend, obviously to the frustration of many. Marcus Rashford's in really good form, so I'd really like to see that continue. Curious again if he plays on the right. I know Fenerbahçe, the left back, Oosterwolde, I think he did his ACL on the weekend, so they're short of left back options. So I'm curious as to who gets that right wing slot, because I think that's going to be quite important to unlocking in attack. And then really excited to see if Rasmus Højlund can get on a run of goals now, as we saw early in his career last year with United, that run in the Champions League, before he started to hit those run of injuries. Can he get some form together? He looked really different and confident and stopped just fighting with the centre-backs, stopped trying to out-muscle them, and improved in his hold-up and everything. So I'd really like to see, I'm just excited to see how he goes more than anything else. But
yeah. He just needs to get the ball more often, really. I mean, he's taking, on average, less than 2 shots a game. His conversion rate's pretty good, or his efficiency rate, I should say, in getting shots off and hitting the target's really good, but he just barely gets a shot off because he hardly ever gets the ball, and that's a system problem, not a Rasmus Højlund problem. I think there's lots to say. There's something to be hopeful about with him. So see, I don't see him as a 10. Honestly, he's a mix between a 9 and a 10, isn't he? Or 9.5, as he called himself. But in a 10 hug system where the number 10 is supposed to drop back out of possession into more of an 8 role, I can't see it. Honestly,
yeah, I mean, fair.
Could be completely wrong because Erik has baffled us so often with what he's done. So yeah, maybe there's an attempt to convert him into something else. I don't know. We'll see. I'd be surprised. But it's kind of interesting prospect playing against teams where you don't expect to be under a lot of pressure. Away in Istanbul with the crowd that have walked into the game 4 hours beforehand and been setting off flares, and the team's pumped up for it. I know these are all cliches about Turkish football, but they're just all true as well. Yeah. I can't see United being that open, but these European games have kind of tended to be that way. Fenerbahçe, I mean, you mentioned some of the names there. What a interesting lineup. I mean, there's been quite a lot of money pumped into Turkish football. Beşiktaş, Fenerbahçe, Galatasaray, Samsunspor, who Fenerbahçe drew with at the weekend, doing really well this season. So Jersey's team's actually 8 points off the top at the moment. There's already grumblings about their performance 8 games into the season. But they've got some great names, or very recognisable names. Fred and Amrabat will be their double pivot. Both could come back to haunt us. And Edin Dzeko, obviously of Manchester City fame, still scoring goals, aged 900 something, whatever he is, pretty old. and a few others as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, they signed Saint Maximin over the summer.
Yeah.
They've got Soyuncu, people would remember from Leicester, despite my poor pronunciation.
Both on loan.
They got
yeah.
Dusan Tadic, who's been described as their leader on and off the pitch. Very familiar to Erik ten Hag, obviously. I'm really curious if we got a Casemiro and Agate versus Fred and Amrabat and what all that'll look like in central midfield. But we know how Jose wants to play, wants transition football, which they've been very good at so far. But they are defensively frail, so that does create some opportunities for a team who, unfortunately, we don't score many goals. So I don't know what that means, but they are gettable defensively. They have been okay, but this season. But Jose did take over a team that finished second last year. I think they won 38 of 38 games. When I was taking a look, they were 3 points off Galatasaray, but they're already 8 points behind. So they're, like you said, he's under a bit of fire. Their European campaign's been a bit weird. They won against Royal Union and they drew with FC20, but they're actually outplayed in both games if you looked into the numbers. So they create high-quality chances, but they're defensively frail. So that doesn't sound like a great recipe against United, who have given up high-quality chances themselves. But they get results. Classic Mourinho. So I'm really curious. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it could be. So, I mean, we started the show by talking about how many goals United have scored and conceded in European competitions. Of course, if United are passive in this one, as they were in the first half against Brentford, like in terms of the press, if they don't try and jump to the press early and they sit off a little bit, as you would often expect in a sort of classic European game, and Fenerbahçe do the same, as is the wont of Jose, this could be kind of boring. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to go, hey, look, we've scored 12 goals in the last 4 European away games, but this could be a defensive one. But there is the possibility of that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like, without Bruno, and without Mason Mount, who's still not playing, the press has been really inconsistent. And then in the first half, it was terrible. In the second half, it was quite good for the majority. Again, if you said like they play passive, it's going to be a snore fest. They can't afford to sit back like they did against, say, Aston Villa. They really want to get on the front foot and create turnovers in the final third if they can. Whether they can do that, I don't know if I have a lot of confidence. But I'm curious to see how they function without Bruno in that 10 role. I know that he's been dropping very deep to the chagrin of you and me. But with Christian Eriksen, who's been not a revelation is the wrong word, but a nice surprise this season. He's certainly been one of our best players. I'm curious to see how the team functions with him at 10 and whether they can unlock a little in attack without that over-reliance on Bruno's, I don't know how to describe his chance creation. I mean, we know it's world-class, but it can be quite unpredictable. Will a layer of predictability actually help the attack?
Yes. Well, look, if Ugarte and Casemiro are fit and it's Eriksen in the 10, it certainly gives you some level of control in central midfield. Eriksen's very comfortable in the 8 or 10 roles before his sort of conversion to number 8 by Erik. He was a master creator, perhaps a bit more conventional than Bruno. I'm not sure he would have pulled off that round the corner back heel flick thing to Højlund at the weekend. But certainly makes good decisions with the ball at his feet. Obviously, it's not like I'm super worried about it. I don't see it as the future of United. I do wonder, and this is a wider question, what the future of United with Bruno looks like. I mean, he signed that new contract. You have to play a very specific way if you have Bruno in there. It reduces his output if you drop him deeper. But Erik has felt the need to do that increasingly. I mean, I think it's backed up by all the data. He's just receiving the ball in deeper positions. He's making more challenges, blocks, interceptions, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's the best use of Bruno. It's a compromise, another square peg, round hole type thing that Erik has got himself into using quite a bit over his 3 years. Yeah, there are 3,000 or so United fans going out there. They're going to have a fantastic time. One of my first experiences with Turkish football was I didn't go to the famous Galatasaray game in '93. I did go to a lot of European football around that time. But a bunch of people I used to go to games with all got arrested and had their passport stamped with deportee. And so it hasn't ever been quite that dramatic for United fans since, but everyone will have a great time out there.
Yeah, I was listening to Talk of the Devils and hearing Andy's story about 1996 against Fenerbahçe when they turned all the lights off and they lit up the newspapers as like torches. It just sounds like, it's like you said, all the cliches are true. It's like terrifying as an away fan. I think was it against Fenerbahçe? Was it the Welcome to Hell or was that Galatasaray?
That was Galatasaray. It was at the airport. Yeah. I mean, perennial rivals, Galatasaray, Besiktas, and Fenerbahçe. Fenerbahçe, of course, on the east and the Asian side of Istanbul.
The big clubs in Turkey. I mean, you were saying earlier, Galatasaray, Besiktas, Fenerbahçe, they've all had money invested by questionable people wanting to change their reputations in Turkey, investing their money in Turkish clubs. So those top clubs in Turkey are doing really well. I mean, you look at the league results and the table, they're getting more and more points each season. And they're getting better and better players like Victor Osimhen at Galatasaray. And I mean, look at Fred. Fred's doing really well at Fenerbahçe. They can afford those type of Prem salaries to take on that money because they're financed a little bit better than your average European club.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, it's a country of 80 million people. Obviously, Istanbul, one of the sort of Europe's great cities, but a still emerging economy in European terms. So classically, they haven't been able to pay top wages, and they've got Turkey's seen as one of those sort of secondary destinations you go to if you can't get a job in the top 5 Euro leagues. Whether that's changing, yeah, maybe. I mean, if they can pay Premier League level salaries or at least top 5 Euro League salaries, they're going to keep getting good players going there. If it's sustainable, I don't know. I mean, it appears to be a kind of political thing, trying to curry favour with Erdogan. Not sure if that's a sustainable strategy or not. But yeah, no, don't take it. No, pure football culture, brilliant place to watch and experience football. Not for Manchester United. I mean, the last time we went to Turkey, we played Istanbul, Başakşehir, and
don't remember that game.
One of those like fucking ridiculous games. One of the worst. Just absolutely mad, that one.
Yeah, someone posted the screenshots of the counter attack, and it was like PTSD.
Yeah, well, you could explain it if you had PTSD. Yeah, I just wandered off for a moment. All right, so what do we see? I mean, we've talked our way into thinking about what it could look like if it's counter-attacking versus counter-attacking and passive. But that has not been United's Euro experience in recent times. So let's say there's a bit of chaos ball. Can United walk away from this with a win? And we kind of really need it. 2 from 2, 21st in the Europa League. I mean, the next 5 don't look too bad, do they? I mean, it's an absolute shocker if United couldn't make it through this, given that 24 teams qualify in some fashion.
Well, they've made it almost
pretty
impossible.
much needed for team and manager.
Yeah, it's almost impossible not to not make it through. But it looks like we're going to put that to the test. But I know that we came back and won on the weekend. But I think the system that we play relies on scoring first. And against Jose Mourinho, you do not want to concede first. He will just park the bus, make it incredibly difficult, and then try and kill you with players like Saint Maximin in transition. So really got to get an early goal. An early Rasmus or Marcus goal would be great. I don't know what to expect, but I don't see a draw in this game. You just know it's going to have that chaotic element of whether it's a last-minute goal or, we've seen on quite a few recent European nights. It's been quite dramatic. So I think we're going to see a continuation of that. I don't know if I'm brave enough to predict a win. I don't know about you.
Not really, but Well, no. Last time I predicted a defeat against Brentford, and I had a bunch of people in my mentions poking fun at me, of course, because you have any kind of opinion on the internet, you're bound to be wrong at some point. So yes, I don't know is the answer. Last word then on Jose in the press conference. Bit of fan service, said that. He said, we finished second, we won the European trophy. Eric's still looking for that European trophy. And he said, if they dock points from Manchester City, I want the trophy and my bonus. Of course. You'll be welcome to it, Josie. Well, no one would begrudge him that, I suppose. A title win in 2018, 2019.
He always knows what he's doing, doesn't he? He's so clever. You can't argue that he's not box office. I think the Premier League misses him. I hate to say it, but I think we miss that. He did say, though, he'd like to return one day. It certainly won't be at Old Trafford. But, I think he's sort of – I think James Ducker might have written about it, but he was sort of proven right in what he said, and the things that he said when he was Manchester United manager have sort of rung true over the years. As tumultuous as his ending at the club was, you can't argue they didn't have good points about what he said. He was willing to speak his mind.
Yeah, he said it was his greatest achievement, finishing second and winning a European trophy. I think that was a little bit of tongue-in-cheek. The interesting thing about Jose's time, looking back on it, I mean, it was a disastrous end, and I think he just lost a little bit of that charisma, and the thing that made him warm to people and that got everyone fighting for him was the humour. You know, it was of course, like the shit stirring, everyone loved, and the mind games and that kind of stuff. But he got a bit grumpy at United, and maybe he's relaxed. He seemed relaxed yesterday, anyway.
Well, you'd have to think the weather might
yet.
do that. Yeah, weather and the climate, but
maybe that helped.
I also wonder whether it's just even the pressure of the job can get to someone like him. It is just such pressure every single day compared to any other job. Like Chelsea is nothing compared to that. I mean, the only thing that compares is Real Madrid. But yeah, maybe he did get a bit grumpy.
All right, we'll leave it there. Adam, good to see you and speak to you. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and everyone, thanks for watching. You can hit the subscribe button. It's that funny little logo thing or the little icon thing at the below, and find us when we post stuff here, or find us on various podcast platforms and Spotify. Thanks a lot. Bye now.